giant glaring light and people who I assume are behind the giant glaring light. So I'm Jim Benson. If you've ever done Lean Coffee or used Kanban or personal Kanban, that's you've touched me. This is the most recent book, The Collaboration Equation, which kind of sums up what's happened to me like throughout my life and why I believe in collaboration and how we can work on it. You are currently at Lean Agile Brighton. If Lean Agile Brighton is not your destination, please disembark now. I'm going to talk a little bit about, or a lot about humane work, which I believe is going to kind of tie together everything that we've done today. And I just want to make it clear to people that when we go to work and we think that we're individuals working, we're actually part of a big processor. And our individual brains are processing things separately, but we actually get the real value when we get together and process together and find ways to process together. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So what I've appreciated today is people have talked about who they are and how who they are has informed what they do. And so, of course, I immediately, I couldn't let them outdo me. So I guess I did do this right. Okay, so, and this is the other thing, I don't do slides. Sorry, slides and me, no. It's never gonna happen. So I grew up here. This is Grand Island, Nebraska, and yeah, it really does look this blurry and shitty. Like there's nothing there but, well, basically hate and bigots, and then and to tell you how much. So I lived here. Isn't that beautiful? But up here was Grand Island Senior High, and then over here was Northwest High School. And 2 years ago at Northwest High School, these kids are my frickin' heroes. They put out the final school newspaper for the year, and it was a pride newsletter, which if I tried to do that, I literally would have been killed. I literally would have been killed in the 80s. So they put out this pride newsletter, and you want to know what the response was? They shut down the entire journalism program at the high school. That's where I'm from. That informs my so like I was born in Omaha, which is like actually a city with people in it, and my parents decided that this blurry crap was a good idea. They later came to see the error of their ways, but either way, this is where I spent my formative years. And I got to Grand Island, and even as like a little kid, I'm not anything. I'm not straight, I'm not gay, I'm not tall, I'm not short, I'm not fat, I'm not skinny. I've just always been like not. I don't fit any mold. So I got there and realized, wow, if I talk about boys being cute, I'm gonna die. So I'm growing up in that world, and then I leave, and there's a punchline that comes after that. But here's the middle punchline. I go off and I go to university. I get a degree in urban planning and psychology. Well, I get degrees in urban planning and psychology. There's no like urban planning and psychology. but the thing is that I've always been interested in creating spaces where people can become their best selves. Right? So it's kind of weirdly logical that I ended up here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this and get to the punchline. So I go off to university in Michigan, and Michigan ends up being like Grand Island, Nebraska with a whole lot more people. So I don't do too much there. Then I go to Seattle as somebody with a degree to go build this light rail system, the subway system and stuff in Seattle. And I'm going to work for a company called Parsons, Brinckerhoff, Quaid & Douglas, which is the third largest engineering firm on earth. Absolutely massive engineering firm. And multinational corporation. And I will tell you, like, I did not look like I look now then. I was, if you took any synth pop star from the 80s, I looked like them. I was so androgynous that I went to a party once and this woman came up to me and said, "You are a beautiful girl." And I said, "Well, thank you." And she said, "Oh, you are a beautiful boy." So I walked into this place not knowing what to expect, and this was on the wall. This is the AIDS quilt panel for Francis Edward Elliott. It changed everything. This is a visual control of massive psychological safety. Massive. And it was just up there on the wall. Oh, here I am. And he was the guy who, they had a bus tunnel, and this was his AIDS quilt panel. And I spent 10 years after that running the Northwest chapter of the NAMES Project AIDS Memorial Quilt. When I went and we gave Ed's panel to the quilt, you could fit it inside a basketball court. When I left, there was 50 square miles of quilt. So it's the largest public memorial, the largest public art project in history. But I wouldn't have ever found that if this multinational, buttoned down corporation hadn't cared enough about this guy to have that in the lobby. Not hidden back in the back, but literally in the freaking lobby where anybody could come in and see it. And that was visual. So the NAMES Project AIDS Memorial Quilt, our slogan was literally see it and understand. And we would take the quilt to Teamsters halls, to sororities, to churches, to Mormon temples. Places where they're not going to have the drag queens come in. There's not going to be drag queen reading hour there. But this thing, because it was just so all value all the time. Real human beings, impacts of real human beings, made visual, made tangible. And then we would all go back to work and treat each other like crap because that's what you do at work. So I'm here today, theoretically, to talk to you about the 7 elements of visual management. I wish I could push this. So the 7 elements of visual management, the first thing I will say about them is that the word "the" shouldn't have been there. So they are 7 elements of visual management. Anytime you list anything and put the "the" in front of it, it's because you want to make money off of it, not because you want to communicate with it. So Kanban. We came up with Kanban. David Anderson and I literally came up with Kanban in Milady's Pub in Magnolia, in Seattle, Washington, on the back of a napkin, drinking Macallan 25. First one written on the back of a napkin, and then all of this crap happens after that. And the next thing I know, when I'm in the middle of this war, this Scrum Kanban war. What's better, Scrum or Kanban? It's like, what's better, milk or water? It's like, how about you just shut up and get your work done? It's like, I don't think you understand. This is my commodity, and your commodity is shitting on my commodity. So we go through that for a while, and our big thing was that we wanted people to limit their work in progress and to visualize their work. And we started to watch over the years what that actually meant to people socially, psychologically, etc. So when people tell you that they want you to be psychologically safe, it's pretty much the same as saying, everybody should be happy. I think you all should be happy. What the hell's wrong with your team? They're not happy. Let's send them to happy training. We're gonna go to happy training. We're all gonna get happy now. It's like, no, you can't. Psychological safety doesn't work that way. Agency doesn't work that way. Agency comes about when you have a system in place that allows people to know what they're gonna do. All right? which is process. So individuals cannot interact without process. Process is how we agree as a group that we're going to talk to each other, learn together, and build things. So 7 elements of visual management. Follow this nice, somewhat forced PDSA loop. I'll stand over here, touch the screen for this one. So everybody here has seen a Kanban by now. Everybody here has seen people not want to use Jira by now. Everyone here has seen people say, I think that my Kanban is Jira, which is adorable. So when you have any visual control at all, you have it in the service of creating a platform where people can act with confidence. All right? And I'll talk about that little story in a little bit. But right now, just to get this stupid graphic out of the way, I want to lay the framework and then go back and tell a bunch of stories about it. So we have direction. It's the backlog, basically. What are you planning to do? What work is coming up? What do we know? When do we think we're going to get done? Who do we think they're going to work on it? Where do we think that the elements of complexity are? This is our direction. Your visual controls should show what you think you're going to do. Unless you have like the surprise board, like, that's what happens. So you see that. Then you move up here to state. And state is who's doing what work is in flight, what problems are showing up, blah, 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 blah. What's stuck, what work is going to what stakeholder, etc. So here you have kind of common Kanban-y thing. But look, there's a bunch of other stuff. So maybe this isn't enough. Maybe Kanban is like not enough. And a Scrum board, don't even get me started. So over here, triggers. Okay, so this is like, we've talked a lot about change and being a change agent, and when we talked a lot about psychological safety, it's like you have the ability to raise your hand and say something doesn't work. Well, what if you didn't have to? So the visual control should show triggers that say, we planned to do this, we started doing this, and we ran into reality, and now reality is saying there's an emergency, there's a emergent complexity, there's an improvement opportunity, whatever it might be. But we had a plan, and now we've run into something new that's going to make us go in a different direction. All right? So when I was building freeways and subways and things like that, we had teams of hundreds of people in multiple agencies and companies that were able to collaborate just fine, thank you very much, with no internet, with hundreds of people. Lots of pizzas, all right? And we were able to do those things because we would set up systems that triggered us to show when things needed to change as we were designing things. And there's also this myth that like in software, change is super rapid, but not super rapid. I'm gonna blow that one out of the water throughout the course of this. So down here, narrative. So we've got the trigger saying, hey, do something else. And so you say, okay, and then you do something else. And you didn't need anybody to be psychologically safe to do it because the stupid thing on the wall told you. And you can't argue with the stupid thing on the wall because it's just showing you, it's the speedometer. The speedometer is saying you're going 85 in a 40 zone, knock it off. So you change your behavior. So down here now is narrative. And narrative is the delta between this and this. It's documentation. So you thought you were going to do this, you did this, and now you're damn well going to remember it. So this plus this equals learning. If you don't document things, you are not a learning organization, period. Okay. So then you have to figure out how do you document your decisions, your discoveries, how you steer your projects. And this last thing is a little blurry for everybody, but it says comfortable change. when you get these things, change becomes more comfortable because it's no longer combative, right? So if we're working towards a system where everybody can collaborate and everyone has psychological safety and everybody has all these good things, snacks and puppies and everything, that it comes because we haven't set all these traps for people to blame each other for things that just happen automatically. Because we're able to see the things happening automatically. Now, when people go and look in the PDSA loop and they get the plan and then they do, and then they get to study or check or whatever we want to call it, it gets really vague about what you're supposed to do there. And because it gets vague, we do stupid things. Like we have retrospectives every 2 months. So this is why I want y'all to go home and say to your spouse, look, seriously, I'm not going to talk to you until 2 months. And then we're going to get together and we're going to do this retro. And we're going to talk about what didn't go right, what went right, how, and you know, try it. Just try it. So we need to have these conversations in an incredibly fast rate. Faster than a ritual, right? So when we get down here and we have this narrative and now all of a sudden we have something that we want to learn so that we can adjust, we need to filter it through something. And if we filter it all through our individual intolerance, it will be current global politics city, right? But if we've actually sat down and defined who we are and what we do and what we want out of life, all of a sudden now we've got filters. Say, we planned this, we did this, we ran into this change, we did these other things instead. Now how are we going to adjust? And we run that through who we are, through our identity. Who am I as an individual on the team? Who is the team as a whole? What's the mission of the team? What are our zones of control? What are our spheres of influence? Every team you've ever been on underestimates its zone of control and its sphere of influence. Your team has its own learned helplessness bubble. And learned helplessness doesn't operate by right-sizing your fear. Oh, this is the appropriate bubble of fear. But no, it's that you run into things that stop you from getting your work done or stop you from participating. And then next time you say, well, I'm not going to do that again, but there's no bubble, the bubble goes to here, right? And then, so we want to make sure that we talk often and challenge often what we think our zones of control and sphere of influence are. This is what I call the professionalism bubble. Learning, correction, improvement, quality. Everyone's job is to improve things, and the big thing is you. So if you have a bunch of people on your team that are like, just tell me what to do, man. Just give me a user story and I'll type it with my finger bones. You're like, you are not a professional. You are literally just coming here hacking and expecting me to pay you for that. And I can bitch about those people all day long. But a lot of those people are in that learned helplessness bubble because they tried to help before and they couldn't. Not because they're idiots or jerks, but because there wasn't a system in place to do that. So they were individuals desperately trying to interact without a process to interact with or tools to facilitate that interaction. So individuals interact through processes and tools. This is a huge bubble. So we always talk about quality, quality is wonderful and whatever. But what quality actually is do you as a professional feel comfortable with the product that you're putting out? And if you don't, do you stop the product from being out? And if you don't stop the product, you say, oh, this sucks. And it's okay, well, then you're no longer a professional. Maybe that was forced, maybe that was chosen. But at the current point in time, if you want to engage in professionalism, you have to engage in improvement. Then lastly is culture. And culture isn't how many times you go to the pub. It can include how many times you go to the pub, but it is not how many times you go to the pub. So it includes like upskilling, onboarding, and what I call human repair. Are you watching the other people on your team and making sure that as they go through the trials and tribulations of living, that you are helping them adjust their WIP limits according to their ability to actually process work and information at any given point in time? So we had a woman that was working with us named Patty, and she was an overachiever and a workaholic and just on all the time. When her father passed away, she came in and did so much crappy work that you would be stunned. You're like, whoa, this is like award winning. So what we did for her is we said, look, we know that if you don't come into the office, or we were distributed, but if you don't do something each day, you're gonna feel disconnected, right? So we said, your WIP limit is now 1. You get to come in, you can choose anything you want to do, but you can only do one thing a day. And then you need to go off and heal. You know, hang out with your sister, hang out with your kids or whatever. So your visual controls need that loop. What are you doing? How's it going? Oh my God. Hey, remember oh my God? Yeah, let's not oh my God again. All right? So I'm going to try and do this in record time. Humane management. Bigger humane management. These are set up on this way on purpose. So communication. We as human beings are singularly crappy at communicating. We're terrible at it. If there was some sort of interplanetary award system for the worst possible communicating species ever spontaneously sprouted upon creation, or how can you? Never mind. We would be there. So communication is whenever you take any piece of work and you agree that it's going to get done, you have now opened up multiple lines of communication between you and the customer, you and the stakeholders, you and the rest of the team, you and the other teams that you're pretending like you don't work with. That all of a sudden, all those lines of communication are set. This is one of the reasons, this is the reason why we limit WIP. Is the moment that you pull a ticket, you pull all of the people along with that ticket who are like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? How's it going? Are you done yet? I thought it was gonna be yesterday's, not yesterday's, today's, what? You know, and then you're sitting there on Slack spending all of your time, doing this as opposed to actually doing the work. So when we limit our work in progress, we limit our communications in progress. But we don't just want to limit communication, we want to make it awesome. So I'm communicating, I've got a project and I'm working on it with you. We have now established a relationship. A relationship is 2 or more people who are communicating. I know the math here is hard, okay? But Tim will be able to give you a lot of esoteric tools to debug your relationships by the end of the day. So you cannot have relationships with people that you don't communicate with. But once you do set up a line of communication with somebody and you value the relationships and you know that the work is now going to impact them in some way, now you are constantly negotiating. See, listen for all of the buzzwords of all the slides that have been up here today that are just pouring out of my face. So now we're negotiating when this is going to be done, how it's going to be done, how we need to talk to each other while it's being done, all that cool stuff. When these 2 things happen, then you get this one. Okay? So people say, well, I treat everybody immediately with respect. It's like, no, you treat everybody not like crap, which is okay. You should keep doing that. But respect comes from information from these 2 things. We respect people that will reliably do something, right? So now you have this kind of equation, that plus that equals this. Then when you have these things, then you get all the Post-it notes. So then you get flow. Oh, what? Well, shit. I love to hear myself talk. All right, so when we talk about flow, we tend to talk a lot about this, process flow, but not so much about psychological flow, information flow, problem flows. There's all sorts of things that are flowing through your team. The least of which, and the easiest to track, is work. Because work is obvious. But you guys lose information every day. Where's this? Where's that? Where do we make this decision? Where's this document? Which is the right document? Blah, 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 blah. So we want to make sure that we're communicating, building the relationships, and getting this flow. So I'm going to very quickly, I'm not showing you my pictures or anything. So I'm just going to go straight to the punchline here then. So this is a group of people who are not making software. These people are building the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Hospital in New York. This is their Obeya. This is their room filled with visual controls for different parts of the project for a $1 billion project. So just imagine, they're like, oh, yeah, just build another building. You give software people $1 billion, and they're like, oh, I'm Google, you know. It's like, how many of my friends can I hire? So here, you know, you'll see that there's a Kanban over here. There's a heat map back here. There's time series data up here. These people are right now gathered to solve a sticky problem. These are pictures from the field about the sticky problem. This is their safety information, and this stuff continues around the room. The watchword, the slogan, I guess, the vision for this particular project that was set by Chris, this bald pink guy there, was we solve problems together and immediately. And so these people in this room are solving a problem about the pilings, the footings of the building. She is the ornamental metals superintendent. He is the woodworking superintendent. These are people who never would have been in this room before. But they knew that a problem was a problem. And the more that you dealt with them up front, the less likely you were to deal with other ones in the future, because people would become sensitized not only to problems, but to problem solving. So the key thing here, two key things here, is one, this is the guy who's not part of Turner Construction. He's the guy who came expecting to get sued. He literally came expecting to get sued, and Chris is like, no, we're going to solve the problem and get it done. And they did, and he was like, he was very emotional about it. But then the other thing about this is that this group got so used to problem solving that quickly that when COVID came up, all of the other construction projects, regardless of cost or size, at Turner Construction globally, called back to the main office and said, what do we do? These guys came into this room and said, what do we do? And then what they decided became what the rest of Turner did globally. They did that because this guy had that stupid little slogan. I just want to show one more person who's oh, actually, I wanted to show this. That's in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin airport, by the way. So just to let you know that even they're listening to Porsche Tom. When I say act with confidence, it's because of this guy here. He was the first person at Turner that we set up an Obeya with, and this is Sal, who works with him, and that's Charlie over there, who's his boss. And we set up this Obeya, it had a Kanban and whatnot in it. All of the people from Turner, all of the HR folks from Turner were in town in New York for a meeting. they all piled into this little abaya that we'd set up for Kevin. And they said to Kevin, Kevin, does this impact your work-life balance? And Kevin looks at them and he says, I work at Turner. Nothing is going to impact my work-life balance. I know what I've signed up for. He says, when something comes up on the board and it needs Charlie Whitney's help or Charlie Murphy, who was down the hall, or anybody else that he worked with, he's like, they know immediately when something needs to be done, and they also know when I'm handling something that they can come talk to me about or choose to ignore. And he said that helps me act with confidence. I'm sitting in the corner singing. Yeah, as someone who does what we do, you get exactly 0 thanks for what we do. We are like, not well thanked. That's like the closest thing to like a freaking thank you that you're gonna get. It's like when you're working with somebody and they don't just get it, but they get it that deeply. And when he said that, I realized, oh my God, that means nobody really ever acts with confidence. We're all just scared to death, right? So, I've got all sorts of stories that I can't tell because I've only got 2 more minutes. Okay, so this is one other quick pick. This is from the Columbia Business School project. If you go to New York for any reason, get on a train and go up to 125th and Broadway and look at those buildings. They are so gorgeous. But the project was awful. It was absolutely awful. And so this is a Kanban. This is a vertical Kanban. Stuff cascades down to the floor, kind of a plummet to the bottom, if you will. Where you see the colored stickies, that's current WIP for any of these things. And you can see that there's tons of data. So the customer that they were working with was so mean. Is this being recorded? Okay, so the customer they were working with was challenging and adorable. But basically they set this board up. You can see all these numbers in here, which were like planned, actual, and any discrepancies. And they were keeping track of all of that because that was how contentious the relationship was, right? So this is a Kanban and it's raw. It doesn't flow from right to left. It's got all this extra information on it, but it's what the group needed to get their work done, right? See up here, they had the time series data. Over here is the problem that they're solving that day. But they created, I thought it was 2 minutes last time. Oh, okay. All right. That's good. I was writing myself then. So what I loved about these projects is these are like people who never would have used an Abaya, right? They all had their individual work. And their work was, I'm the superintendent of this, I'm the superintendent of this, I'm the superintendent of this. And they had horrible injury rates, and they had horrible defect rates. So their technical debt is called a punch list. So you get to the end and you have all of these things that you have to fix up, and the punch lists were just massively long. Mm-hmm. When we started to set up these buildings and started to set up this culture where these people weren't alone. They weren't assigned their individual tasks. Everything was collaborative. Then they were able to start to work together. And if you don't think that sitting alone at your desk going, what in the hell am I going to do about this, is toil, and everybody coming in to help you solve the problem of the day is play, then you better get out of here because Portia's going to chase you down. So this is play at work. Play at work is having a rule set that allows you to act together with confidence to get things done so that you go home happier than you came in the office at the beginning of the day. That's it. So that, I could, you know, I mean, look at this, I could go on forever about it. But for me, it's literally, do we understand what it is that we need to do when we're finishing buying this project? That's no different than providing this same type of information from the quill. We're getting information out there that people need, that they don't necessarily know they need, with an end state of leaving today a better place than when you woke up this morning and found it, right? That for me is what makes play. You can't play without a game board. And you can't, one Kanban isn't a game board. And if you have a whole bunch of things that you're visualizing online in this tool, and this tool, and this tool, and this tool, that is also not a game board. That's your crap spewed all over the place, right? So even, you know, people are like, oh, I've got to calculate this or stuff. This is like Post-it notes on a freaking wall. This is a $1 billion project with Post-it notes on a freaking wall. You don't need all those statistics. Don't tell Troy McGinnis, he'll kill me. But you don't need all of the statistics. You need to know what's going on. And when you know what's going on, then you have the communication, the relationships, the respect, and you have that PDSA loop that has actually been instantiated. And that is what makes a cross-functional, self-organizing team. I have landed the plane.